Welcome back to the shop, everyone. I hope you're doing well. What you see in front of you is a piece of Birdseye Maple. We're going to turn this into a watch display case. Because I've never made one before, I decided to map it out in place so I can see the grain and everything and how it's all going to look. So obviously the front of the box, the lid is up top here. We have the distancing, and then the dotted lines, if you can see those, are the bases that are going to go inside that the watches are going to sit on. We have our drawer front there. There's going to be a little slide out drawer for watch bands and so forth and so on. So yeah, going to mill all this up and move forward from there. Alright, so this is the little drawer that's, or drawer face that's going to go in, and you can see I burnt that trying to cut the 45 in there, and unfortunately it has to be right on an exposed face, so I'm just using the card scraper to take off little tiny bits, and you can already see with a couple of strokes that that's almost gone. I like the card scraper because it leaves a really nice finish, and I find it less prone on delicate angles like this. Even though I'm taking off more material than when I'm sanding, it doesn't skew the angle like it would if I was using a sander, right? Like, you could sand this very carefully, but I think because the sander is soft, you have a tendency to bevel the edges a little bit, whereas with the card scraper, again on end grain there, you can just peel it right off. Just like that, slowly and surely. Make sure your card scraper is sharp. I'll do a few more strokes there and just clean that up. But yeah, that's what I use the card scraper for in this kind of technique. All right, we're at the next steps of the watch display case. What you see on screen before you there is the box that's set up. What we're going to do next is we're going to use that spline jig that's sitting in the background. If you watched my previous box video, you'll notice that the spline jig has changed because I really didn't like that one. This one's a lot nicer. So what we're going to do next here is we're going to zoom in, and I'll explain quickly what I've done here and what's going to happen next. So as you can see on the screen here, what we've got here is the splines that I'm actually going to cut in. I'm going to cut them in on a 15-degree angle, so my table saw is set to a 15-degree angle, and then I'm going to cut the two cuts, so I'm going to have to move my fence over, but I'm going to do 2 cuts, and then I'm going to do all 4 corners. So I'm going to run all 4 corners first with the fence on the right-hand side, and then I'm going to flip that over and do all 4 corners on the left-hand side. I had to tape the entire box together because there's a whole bunch of stuff going on that I couldn't do the glue up before I do the miter, so this might be exciting. I think the box will stay together. I actually have the base in there that the watches are going to sit on inside the box. So structurally I think it's pretty solid. Shouldn't fall apart when I cut it, but it's always a little bit exciting. Anyway, we're going to set up here and start doing some cutting. So the spline cutting went pretty well. One of them, the box slipped a little. It's on the back side though, so not as bad. But it definitely blurred one of these edges a little bit, or it touched this edge as the box went through. It shifted just a tiny bit. So I'll have to have a look at that when I get to it. But what I wanted to talk about next is this is the drawer that's actually going to slide out. So as you can see, I can't glue the splines in straight away. Because if I glue those in there, obviously the drawer won't come out anymore. So I'm going to have to cut the spline. I think I'm going to cut the spline to fit. And then I'm going to slide it in there so I get the angle right. And then I'm going to mark it once it's in, because I can just take this off. And then I'm going to cut that as close as I can to either side of the face. So in here, I'll cut it off flush with those, and then the same on the inside of the drawer there. And put all those together, because I don't want to mess that up. But that's the idea, that's the angle that I was shooting for. It'll kind of look like a dovetail, but not quite, obviously. But yeah, I think it should look neat. I'm going to use Purple Heart for it, so the next thing I have to do is cut some strips to fit those notches out of Purple Heart, get those all set up, and then away we go from there. All right, moment of truth. We do the glue up. Starting to look like a watch display case. Drawer turned out pretty nice. I got a little bit of a lip on here that I'm going to try and take down a little bit. It's not much. Looks like maybe 2 millimeter, like 1/16 of an inch. It's just enough that I can actually get my fingers on it. Open the drawer. I did all the inserts. Those are all in. These aren't actually glued in. The whole tray comes out. So you can take the whole tray out, and then we have all the inserts in there. I was undecided how to use this space because the balance didn't work out going through here, but it actually turns out that it fits 3 of the watch cushions in there quite nicely, so you could actually get 3 more watches in there. And then that whole thing drops in. Reason for a little bit of a snug fit. Reason for the insert is I actually did my spacing a little bit too high for the way that a watch would sit in here. So what I did is when I added this little insert in here, I actually put a false bottom, so there's a 1/2 inch gap there, so there's a 1/2 inch space underneath this. But it all turned out, worked out well. Now I just got to finish everything and then build a lid, which is next. Lid, and I got to get a piece of glass cut, and this will be done. So, ready for glue up on the little lid. This was an interesting clamp idea that I saw online. So I went and actually bought one today to do this clamp up. I tried to use a standard let's call it a soft clamp with the 4 corners and a ratchet strap on it. But as soon as you started applying any pressure, this would deflect and do all kinds of weird stuff. This actually wasn't too bad. I think this was $55 for this clamp. And you can actually buy extensions for it too if you're doing something larger. Pretty interesting setup. I really like it. I think it's well worth the money if you're doing small work like this or delicate items that you can't use a standard clamp for. I could have made a jig for it, but because I've 45'd the edges on the inside, it would have been pretty hard to get anything to sit flat on it. So that is why I went with this little jig. So that is that. We're going to let that dry. The joints all look good. So we'll let that dry and decide if we're going to put splines in it. And then put hinges in, glass in, do some finishing, all that fun stuff. So I've traced out the hinge mortises that are going to go in here. So now we're going to cut them out. I'm actually going to use a little handheld router, a little trim router with a eighth inch bit in it, and knock those out, and then I'll finish those off with a chisel, and we'll see how that all lines up. All right, last couple of little touches, and then we can apply some finish. That's just a little bit of epoxy that I put into the brass inserts. Just need a tiny bit in there. These things fit in pretty darn tight as they are. For a test fit, I could barely pull them out. So those are pretty much done. Here's the finished watch display case. I thought I'd show it in its open configuration and then put it together quickly. So if you like this kind of content, please subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think of the build, or if you have any questions or anything like that, leave a comment below. Any feedback or questions are always appreciated. And this is one of my simple pleasures, I'd say, watching that almost piston fit slide together. And then the last is the lid. And that's the finished unit. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great day.